All right, let's get right into it. We all think we know inflammation, right? It's that swollen ankle, that sore throat. But what if I told you it's not really a disease at all? That it's actually one of the most dramatic, high-stakes stories of defense, rescue, and repair. And it's happening inside our own bodies every single day. Today, we're going to unpack that incredible story.
You know, the ancient Romans had a word for it, inflammation, and it literally means to catch fire. And wow, is that a perfect description? It really captures that rapid, intense, hot process. It's not just some fancy metaphor, it perfectly nails the biological reality of what's going on.
So, where does it all begin? How does this fire actually start? Well, every single inflammatory response, doesn't matter if it's big or small, starts with what you could call an incident report. Something, somewhere in the body has gone wrong, and a cell has been hurt. That's the moment the alarm gets pulled.
And this is where we really need to shift our thinking. See, inflammation isn't the problem, it's the solution. It's the body's go-to all-purpose defense program. It's designed to do three things: neutralize the threats, clean up the mess, and kickstart the healing process. Seriously, without it, even a tiny paper cut could become deadly.
So, who are the usual suspects? What triggers this whole thing? Well, the triggers, these flagogenic factors, can come from just about anywhere. On the one hand, you've got the external attackers, things like a cut, a chemical burn, or a nasty virus. But, and this is key, the emergency call can also come from inside the house. We're talking rogue tumor cells, the body mistakenly attacking itself, or even just a lack of blood flow causing cells to suffocate. The second that injury happens, boom, the response is instantaneous. The body wastes absolutely no time. It sounds the alarm, using a flood of chemical signals. You can think of these like the sirens and the flashing lights of a biological ambulance crew. And check out how efficient this system is. The body basically has two kinds of alarms. First, you've got your preformed mediators, like histamine. These guys are already packed and stored, ready to go in an instant, kind of like having fire extinguishers already mounted on the wall. But then, you also have the newly synthesized alarms. These are built on the spot, right at the scene of the crisis, for a more specific and sustained response.
And get this for multitasking. There's this one protein, the Hagerman factor. The moment it touches damaged tissue, it flips a switch. And in one single move, it kicks off three different vital systems. It starts coagulation to form a clot so you don't bleed out. At the exact same time, it triggers the Kinnin system, which is what causes that sharp feeling of pain. That's your body yelling, hey, something's wrong here. And it even preps another system to break that same clot down later. It's just an amazing cascade of efficiency.
So the chemical alarms are blaring, right? Now it's time to get some boots on the ground. This next phase is all about mobilizing the body's cellular fighting force, getting them out of the bloodstream and to the exact spot where they're needed.
And the journey these cells take is just mind-blowing. First, these immune cells are just flowing along in the blood highway, and they marginate, they pull over to the shoulder. Then they adhere, basically grabbing onto the wall of the blood vessel with this kind of molecular Velcro. And finally, this is the amazing part, they perform diapedesis, where they literally squeeze themselves through tiny gaps in the vessel wall to get into the damaged tissue. They are now officially on the scene.
So who are these troops? Well, we've got a whole crew. First up are the neutrophils. They're the rapid response infantry, the first ones to arrive, and they're experts at fighting bacteria. Then, rolling in a bit later, are the macrophages. Think of them as the heavy-duty cleanup crew, gobbling up dead cells and invaders. Eosinophils are the specialists, called in for things like parasites. And finally, you have the lymphocytes. They're like the intelligence and special forces, the ones who coordinate those really targeted, precise attacks. Okay, so the battle gets fought. But what happens then? Well, this is where the story can fork into two very, very different paths. The mission debrief, if you will, tells us whether this was a quick, successful mission or the start of a long, brutal war. And this, right here, is the absolute key difference. On the left, you've got acute inflammation. It's fast, it's intense, the neutrophils are in charge, and the goal is total restoration. It gets in, does the job, and gets out. But on the right, that's chronic inflammation. This is a war of attrition that can drag on for weeks, months, even years. The main players are different, and the outcome isn't healing. It's ongoing damage, scarring, and it's what's at the heart of so many modern diseases. I mean, this quote from our source material just says it all, doesn't it? One is a defense reaction, the other is a destructive process. One saves your life, the other can slowly take it. Understanding this difference, It's everything when it comes to modern health. The entire story is right there in that one sentence.
So all of this microscopic warfare is going on, the chemical signals, the cellular troops. But how do we even know it's happening? Well, our body gives us some very clear, very obvious evidence. These are the telltale signs that a battle is raging.
Okay, so these are the 5 classic signs they've been talking about for thousands of years. You've got redness and heat, which come from all that extra blood rushing to the area. Then there's swelling, which is caused by fluid leaking out into the tissues. Pain, that's a direct message from those chemical alarms we talked about. And finally, loss of function. That just makes sense, right? A swollen, painful ankle is not an ankle you want to be walking on.
But the signals aren't just local. A really big fight can trigger a system-wide alert, something called the acute phase reaction. This is why you get a fever. Your body is literally turning up its own thermostat on purpose. Your bone marrow starts pumping out more white blood cells. Your liver produces special proteins like CRP that doctors can measure in your blood. And you know that feeling when you're sick, exhausted, sleepy, no appetite? That's part of the strategy. It's your body telling you to lay low and save all your energy for the fight.
So we end here with this idea, the protector's paradox. We've seen how inflammation is this brilliant, life-saving protector. It's the hero of our internal story. But the biggest question in modern medicine, and really something for all of us to think about, is what happens when that hero refuses to go home? What happens when the protector won't stand down and instead becomes the problem itself?